What's good, everybody? This is Denny.
And this is James from TDB. What episode are we on?
We're the Dalmatians episode. 101.
Oh, no. Yeah. So next one is just going to be a really terrible sequel. 102.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
What do we got today?
So we are drinking some tea from a relatively new outfit, some Wuyi, from a place called Yuan. And so it's run by Ben and Abby, who are nice enough to send some samples. And I believe Abby is a native of China. I don't know exactly where, but they went to go kind of like explore over there, and they ended up sourcing some teas. And it sounds sort of like a kind of impulsive, unexpected thing, becoming sort of a tea vendor.
Yeah.
So so they sent a few of their Wuyis, and I've had a few, and I'm sending Denny home with a few.
Cool.
And I've been pretty satisfied with the quality.
Yeah, it's aroma on this is incredible already. Oop, come on now. Wow, look at that. Nice and dark, actually.
Yep. So a lot of their stuff is very properly mid to high fired, and so this is their Rou Gui, which is the cassia/cinnamon bark.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, very aromatic.
Yeah.
You can definitely smell that charcoal too.
Yeah.
So it'd probably benefit from a year or two of resting.
I'm actually getting a little mustard on that, interestingly enough. A little yellow mustard. Yeah, a little bit of it's kind of like a earthy spice, but not peppers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I should know. What's the word? What's the chemical in peppers again? It's not...
Capsaicin?
Capsaicin, yeah.
Yeah.
I should be able to pull it out of my butt.
So this is kind of spicy.
It is, but not in that capsaicin sort of way.
It's not as in like burning your mouth.
No, not quite as much. Not quite as...
That'd be an interesting tea. Probably a terrible tea.
Yeah, I've had a beer made out of... It's tried to do things like that, and it's just gross.
Yeah.
Alright, let's give this a shot.
Cheers.
Cheers. I brewed this for very quickly, so yeah, but
it's still pretty light.
It's very light still.
So you can definitely taste some of the charcoal, but it's nicely balanced. I would say it kind of has this sort of dry fruit flavor that I'm picking up on. That's slightly veering slightly towards astringency, which kind of like drying in the mouth.
Yeah, I get that sort of. It's headed towards that tannin mouthfeel.
Yeah.
But I don't think it quite gets there. And actually, I find that this has a really nice sweet aftertaste.
I
really
totally
pleasant,
agree.
lasting.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the markers of the really good Wuyi oolongs. The Yancha is like that really, really solid aftertaste.
Let's give this a little bit longer.
And I definitely get that in a lot of the TUN.
It's nice. It's subtle. It's sweet. You kind of are hanging out, and then sort of like, oh, that's nice. But I'm gonna give this a little bit longer. And with your Wuyis, James, what typically do you do for brewing parameters? I'm curious.
You know, I used to be the guy to overload the pot with leaves, and you can definitely see that. And I don't think that's a bad way to go, but just in terms of like watching the amount of caffeine that I intake over the day, I've kind of dialed it down. I still think it's a tea genre that benefits a lot from high leaf-to-water ratios. You can definitely brew it more casually, but I think you're going to lose a lot of the essence of Wuyi tea, sort of that mineral and rock taste, which can get really nice when it's enhanced. So I tend to up the leaf-to-water ratio and drop steep times pretty strongly. So some of those more characteristic Wuyi flavors coming out of the aroma, like minerals and kind of like this grainy grittiness to it.
Yeah. I'm getting this, like, mustardy, garlicky thing a little bit, too. It's subtle, but it's kind of like, dill.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Hard to say.
Huh.
I mean, definitely all of the normal flavors. Not a lot of, it's not particularly perfumey or flowery.
No.
But it's a little bit fruity, definitely charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
Not super chocolatey either.
No, not particularly.
Let's give this another shot.
At least I'm not picking up on it.
Cheers.
A lot fuller this time.
Yeah, I mean, the mineraliness of this is so nice. It's interesting. Like, it's such a weird thing to enjoy, but it's so distinct in this type of tea.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you're on the side of a mountain climbing, and you lick the mountain a little bit. I don't do that very regularly,
never.
but
next Saturday, man.
We have a lot of mountains around us.
We do. It's been gorgeous outside too.
And it's not. I'm still not brewing this long enough to get that tart astringency going on.
Yep. And I think it's also a little bit lighter than I normally use. We use the end of the sample bag, so I guess we didn't have quite enough to go by my normal parameters, but it is relatively close, and I think that really does enhance that rock flavor.
Yeah, it's nice. I think this one in particular, you can't really drink. It's subtle enough that I would have its own session and have it become a dedicated tea session.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I agree. I think this is a well above average Wuyi, and right now it's kind of like pick and choose sort of for these teas because the roast is so strong.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like drinking it now, you'll drink it and you can enjoy that charcoal. But if you wait for a couple of years, it's going to change and become quite different, and the roast will be less, and you'll get more sort of like dark fruit flavors.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So that's at least been my experience with
And this is
Wuyis.
And this is very. It is very. Looks like charcoal fired and still staying very dark. You'll sometimes see a Wuyi and other teas that appear on the outside to be quite roasted. In reality, they're just heavily fermented. Once you brew them a little bit, they're much greener.
Yeah.
So we gave this a much longer steep time this time, and I'm going to try to. The water's cooled down significantly, and we are using a smaller guy one, so it's not going to retain as much heat.
Yep, good point.
So, but hopefully this is like a little bit more punch. Yeah, a little bit more oomph.
Yeah.
Let's give it a shot. Cheers.
Cheers.
More chocolatey on the nose.
Yeah, and actually, as soon as we commented how it wasn't particularly chocolatey, I picked up on a little bit of that in the previous steep. A little bit of that here as well.
Yeah, I'd say it's getting a little bit more of those bitter flavors.
Despite the color on this being not totally strong and red, the body is actually pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, this is quite nice. And I wouldn't. This isn't a very intro Wuyi. That's kind of my vibe about this.
Yeah, I think some of those teas you talked about before that are going to turn greener over time, sort of the lighter roasted teas will probably be more friendly Wuyis to people. Well, also more friendly on the wallet to those getting started. But yeah. I think the people that are really, really into the Wuyis, and there are some people that are really into it, might dig this tea.
Yeah, absolutely. So, James, if folks wanted to learn more about beautiful-looking tea leaves like so, what should they do?
Yeah, well, they should come check out TDB, where we have our local tea farmer here who's harvesting tea, and yeah.
Making a mess all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and also go check out t-yuan.com. We'll include the link in the description. They're a new operation, especially if you're into your Wuyis. I think they also sell some pu'ers. So if that's your thing, go check them out. They ship stateside, so you'll get your tea relatively quickly.
Sweet. And for more tea-related content, check out tdb.org. Subscribe that way. I think it's down there. And we will see you guys next time for episode 102. Cheers.